So, dear friends, now we get to another highlight of our conference. We want to introduce this textbook of Positive Psychodynamic Psychotherapy, and we're very happy that the two main authors, editors of this book are here, Udo Boessmann and Arno Remmers. And before you come on the stage, which will be in 3 minutes, so I have still, I want to tell you very, very briefly some aspects of the background. They will tell the details longer. We were sitting in the Wiesbaden Academy of Psychotherapy with about 30 trainers, you know, professors, psychoanalytical people, all these people. And we're thinking, what should we do? Our students don't read anymore, like everywhere. They don't read anymore. What should we do? So first and then we thought, which books should they read? So every trainer said, of course, his favorite book. So I think we came up with a list, I don't know, maybe 50 books or so, yeah? We published it, gave it to every student, no reaction. Then we sat down, said, is there one book which the people should at least read before they go for the examination? We thought and thought and thought, and suddenly, I think it was even a psychoanalyst who is with us, he said, Dr. Putzke, and then he said, okay, why we don't take this one book from Udo and Arno? So now when you come to the Wiesbaden Academy, you see in the Fridays on the seminars, people always walking like that, you know, with this red book. In German it is red, it's not blue, it's the red book. So everybody walks like that, and since then, the results in the examination has become much better, because these are some basics. So we thought really that at least they should know the basics of psychodynamic understanding and so on and so on. And so this was like a little bit one part of the background. And then the second part of the story is that when Gabi, where's Gabi? Gabi and myself did on behalf of the board like this re-examination of trainers and of new trainer candidates, about 200 I think up to today. We found out in the last 3-4 years that very often the psychodynamic understanding is not so much there. Very much the humanistic understanding is there, which is very important, but sometimes this psychodynamic understanding is lacking. Yeah, they always say balance model and this, but the psychodynamic understanding was not so good. And so then came the idea, okay, what to do? And then we said, okay, if these books work in one country, maybe it can work in other countries too. So then the board of directors actually decided, it's the first time, to really take this book and publish it in different languages. And I don't know, maybe you will say in how many languages are now on the way. So friends, take this really seriously then, yeah? So I think if the board spends time and money into that to promote one book, and both of the authors don't get any money or something for that, this is really to promote this really so that you and your students really have access to that. So this is the background, and now I think we are very happy to welcome Udo Boessmann and Arno Remmers here and listen to their story. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yes, in our age we maybe have the privilege to sit in here in front of you. No, so it's good. So, okay. Okay. So, thank you very much. And we got already so much appreciation from the people who bring the book for the signature, and I feel very honored and happy for this huge amount of appreciation what we already got here. Thank you so much. Yes, I would also like to thank all the people who participated in this book, the translators and the people who read the book and controlled the content, and so there was so much work from so many people in so many countries. I cannot name them all now, but I want to thank all of you for your input and your cooperation with us. Thank you much. So Hamid, and I also have to thank Hamid. Without him, the book wouldn't become real. He is a really great. He inherited from his father to make other people work very well. Yeah, maybe you know also. And so he really motivated us to work on this book again for the international edition. And then 25 years ago, we had the challenge that Nosrat Boessmann and his method, they should prove that they meet the German requirements for therapy methods to be acknowledged by the authorities. And so Nosrat was a great teacher, and we learned so much from him, but he was not that good in psychodynamics. He could not hello? He was not so good to explain to the responsible people that our method meets what these authorities understand under psychodynamic psychotherapy. Somehow we were under the pressure to prove that we are experts for psychodynamic psychotherapy. And we explained, and it was very difficult, and we were near to fail and get kicked out of the system. And so I made the suggestion, why don't we prove our expertise by writing a book? So instead of always that they doubt that we are good enough, we are just writing a book, and then maybe we demonstrate that we are experts in psychodynamic psychotherapy. And so I could use this what I had already prepared for the report, and so we made this first book out of it, and it worked. With this book, we succeeded. We succeeded in becoming acknowledged. Yeah? And why I tell you this? Because Hamid asked me to tell you the story, to encourage all of you in your countries where you struggle with the governments or with the authorities, and to prove that you are good enough for being part of the system, that you also maybe use this way to prove your competence. This is one thing. So, and then through the years, this book was a cooperation of our Institute for Positive Psychotherapy, so that many other teachers of our academy, they participated in the book, and so through the years we re-edited the book so that finally the German edition came into life. Then we had a second edition, and finally Hamid asked Arno and me to prepare the international edition. Now I give.
Just perhaps to add to that, that when I look back, our group of trainers at that time had been sitting together many times to create the basis for the books. And when I think about that, in the past we met sometimes each week. When I came to Wiesbaden, sometimes I'd been out, and at home we had been discussing all the time we had been discussing a lot with each other about all psychodynamic theories, about the backgrounds of OPD and how to make it practical, how to bring theory to practice, and how to found the practice on a theoretical basis. And so many years we had been working together, cooperating, especially the two of us. Udo was the one of all the trainers who could write the best. So he took that job to be the editor, to be the writer, and you collected the ideas that we gave to you. And so this cooperation came up, and finally the two of us had been the ones usually discussing each week or each month something, so that here the next editions became thicker and thicker, so that the Red Book came out, the Red Book that is used now in all German psychodynamic academies, you can say. In each psychodynamic academy it's used as a basic book. So far about this German book, and it was renovated each time, the law was changed, for instance, and you did all this job, always writing in a very good way, and I brought in more the material then.
Right, it's exactly, I was writing and he was giving me all the information. Yeah, so the wisdom or the knowledge, he knows everything, really everything, you know. Yeah, he knows him, you know that he knows everything. And I never had to look up so much. I just called him and asked him, you can give me a hint what I have to look at. And so finally the knowledge in the books is from Arno. My job more is to make a systematic structure, but the knowledge is from Arno up to today. Yeah. So I think enough of mutual. So you are going on, please, with the content.
Yeah, and now it was up to the international version, as the board decided. And this is one of the versions, this is the Romanian version now. And in each country, it was an ongoing process. To come back to that book, I must say, we had the German version, and when I read it, having in mind it should be translated into Chinese, Turkish, Albanian, and many other languages, I thought, okay, we need another case. We need some parts that needs to be changed for the international public. We have an alphabetic order in German that didn't fit the others. The defense mechanisms in Chinese are different in translation than I expected. And so a long process came up. And I take this book because I like it very much. It was the Romanian version where we discussed 300 different terms of psychodynamic with the translator so that the right word came out in Romanian, so that it fits in understanding by everybody and it fits the theory. Because this book, and you wanted to say that, this book contains a lot of science, of background for psychotherapy in general. What are the factors of psychotherapy that are effective? All this is your work especially, to find the background of what means psychotherapy, what means psychodynamic therapy. So, for the international version, we needed a new case. So I took a case with an east-west migration, so coming from the east and living in the west. And this case is a case that you could find also in other countries with the depression, so that this case now was the basis for that book, for the examples, because this book is a long practicing. We didn't want to write a book only about theory, psychodynamic theory. We wanted to see what is the practical aspect, how do I experience clients? And so in this book now we have something that I would say is an addition to the classical positive psychotherapy and therefore we need the chairs. In positive psychotherapy, we have 4 areas of the balance model. This had not been before used in psychodynamic therapy. So we brought in the 4 areas, like 4 legs of a chair, therefore the chair, 4 legs of a chair, body, activity, contact, relation, and future. For the diagnosis, we'll use this balance model, for instance, like in that book. And we have a second chair. Could you please? Yeah. But there is something that is not available in positive psychotherapy, and that is called personality structure. And for this, we need the second chair. When I work in hospitals, usually I use chairs to explain, which structural problem has this patient? Is it the perception of this person? Is it the impulse regulation, the second leg? Is it the emotional communication? Or is it the attachment and detachment of this patient that causes the problems that this person has with their own style. And we brought in now, in addition to positive psychotherapy, this model of structure, because we found out, this was in our discussions, that before you know the structure of a patient, you cannot treat this patient. First, you need to know which kind of personality and structure has this patient. So this is the basis for psychodynamic therapy. Can I work in a conflict-orientated way? Here, this position. Then my approach is different. Can I work in a structure-orientated therapy, more supportive? Or is it a trauma therapy? 3 different approaches in psychodynamic therapy. A different way of behaving, a different way of being a therapist, being a person with a person. So, and this is also included now in that book. So that was structure. Structure is added. Balance model is included in psychodynamic, and the internal conflict, because the internal conflict is a subconscious conflict, is a very special subject in this book, because Nosrat Bezeshkian named the word internal conflict in our trainings, but didn't write anything about it. And so we tried to bring up this subject. What is an internal conflict? What is the basic conflict, the actual trigger, and what is the inner conflict that now exists? The personality structure was described, and we used there something that was in DSM-4 first. The personality types that exist there, and today we use the word, also in the new book, personality styles. There are authors about that already, to see, not to use only the pathological term of personality disorder, but to see which style and which neurotic disposition has this person, to find out the right way of therapy. So this is new in that book, additionally to positive psychotherapy. And the defense mechanisms in their functions. This is also described here, and for each defense mechanism is a definition in that book, and for each style of personality, the typical defense mechanisms, the typical transference and countertransference phenomena, the typical biography is presented in that book. So far about something that is not in the books of Bezeshkian, but we had to add that. And trauma therapy. Also, we have colleagues with which we cooperated, trauma therapists, Thomas Grüters, who brought in his knowledge for trauma therapy, and we tried to apply it to the psychodynamic model so that it is a model where we can treat all kinds of trauma, structure, or conflict-orientated symptoms. And something else, the functions of the symptoms. That's the positive connotation in positive psychotherapy. So which function has the symptom also, of course, has a place in here. Concerning, for instance, also a psychodynamic author, Stavros Mentsos, who describes the function of the dysfunctionality. Also this is included now in this book, so we can adapt it. And the roots of psychodynamic therapy and also positive psychotherapy are in there. And how to work with transference and countertransference. I need a chair again. Sorry. Yeah. We just heard that in your workshop. We can, and this is the good thing, we can work with countertransference. So what comes up in us depends on one side, on our own biography, but on the other side, on the person that comes in. And I need then to find out about my countertransference 4 legs again. My body, what do I feel with my body when this patient comes? What is the impulse? What would I like to do when this patient comes? Activity. Which person does this person remind me of? What comes in mind? What story comes in my mind as a countertransference? And which fantasies come in my mind? And in this way, it is possible in a constructive way to use countertransference in therapy. So all this is now in that book, and we tried to add that to positive psychotherapy and to include positive psychotherapy in psychodynamic therapy. And as a conclusion, because this is not the title of the German book, the international book has the title Positive Psychodynamic Therapy. In Germany, it's the textbooks of psychodynamic therapy, and here it's positive psychodynamic therapy because this has a special focus on positive psychotherapy. So far about the contents, or what is it? Yeah. And another thing, when I think about that, what I explain now, for the culture in China, for instance, we have a complete different understanding of some terms. Even in Romania, sometimes we have to find out which words to use to describe the right term for the psychodynamic description. This was a long process, and China is the country where even 2 years of a psychodynamic seminar was needed to understand the whole positive psychodynamic therapy, and to have a team of 6 translators who are working together, who all had been in this seminar, so to develop all the terms that are needed and can be adapted to the culture. And in each of these books, in Turkish, in Albanian, in Russian and Ukrainian now, in future in Bulgarian, it's on the way. Also in Polish, of course. All these books are now translated or on the way to translation. So I thank very, very, very much all these people who had been supporting this translation.
Okay. How much time I have? 10 minutes, great. So I would like to make a link to the other lectures we heard here. Particularly, I was interested in the lectures about psychotherapy research. It's one of my favorite subjects. Not that I want to make the research, but I love to read what others found out. And there's a huge international amount of findings for psychotherapy. I was very yesterday. I heard Tuba and Ali speaking about psychotherapy research. They are still here? Yes. I was really, I loved your lecture. And today, Professor Alfonso, I was very interested to see also what you found out and collected also from others. So, and there's, and also the conclusions, so they match with our conclusions. And so I would like, and one of the big, I think 50 pages or 60 pages, we dedicated the question of international psychotherapy research, connected with the question how we can apply it in the practical work every day. This is the most important question, is what we do with all this knowledge from decades of research. So we need to bring, in German we say, we bring the pigs on the street, the horsepower on the street. Maybe you have a similar metaphor. So we want to use all this knowledge for the daily challenges of our work. And so instead of telling you now what is written in the book, I would like to ask you that, because you know it already. I don't have to tell you. Because this, what international psychotherapy research found out, is somehow evident by normal reasoning. If we ask our experience with our patients, we know already what works in practical work, and we know it also because we learned it already from psychotherapy research what is important. Yes, I'm not so used to speak with microphones. So, please, I invite you to share with us what, from your experience and from your knowledge, is the most important factors what makes psychotherapy successful. I speak about the general factors, not about you differentiated between the 70% of the general, of the supportive therapy, and only 30% is the specific. I do not want to speak about the specific aspects. Please let us think about the general things what apply in every psychotherapy. What are the ingredients of a successful psychotherapy from your experience? Please, I invite you to speak it out. What do you think? What are the most important? Let us find the 5 most important things what make psychotherapy work, make us successful as psychotherapists.
The faith that changes are possible, actually.
The faith
that changes that are possible.
Is possible. So the positive expectation of the patient, yes, that he has really hope that change is possible. Yeah, the positive expectation is a very important factor, a single factor. But it depends on what? On this optimism of the patient depends on other factors, and maybe you...
The relationship between therapist and the client.
I don't know who's talking. Okay.
The relationship between the therapist and the client.
Right. Right. So the quality of the relationship, what Professor Alfonso said in his lecture, the alliance, yeah, what is very important? Lali.
Любовь, в первую очередь, любовь.
Love. Okay.
И сам психотерапевт, кто он вообще? Персона психотерапевта.
Psychotherapist, who he is, his personality. Personality of the psychotherapist important.
The personality and the capability to love.
Yes.
And
yes.
how we see that. Let us make love practical. Give us criteria. How can we measure, or how can we experience the love of the therapist? How, as a patient, when we are patients, how we can feel or validate that the therapist loves us, and also how far can love go? This is another question.
I could think of the unconditional acceptance of what the patient is bringing.
Okay.
The trust.
But how you? But yes. What you as a let it make it very concrete. What as a patient, what I do experience with this positive benevolence was a important word. So the loving attitude of the therapist. How can I experience it as a patient? What is the yeah?
I think the therapist has to trust in the capabilities and the abilities of the client, of the patient. That's the most important thing. That's a capability of love of the therapist.
Okay. Okay. To the appreciation of the capabilities.
Yes.
Okay. Tuba.
Okay. Listening without judgment.
Okay. That's very concrete.
Okay. I would add. Okay, I would add actually what works therapy. From my experience, I see that the capacities of the client, the resources of the client, but through positive psychotherapy, if we activate the resources and capacities, that works in my experience, I think. Activating the capacity.
The capacities.
Yes. And
okay.
Ali also wants to say something. And Ali says it is trust and attachment, and it is important to construct a reliable, a good attachment with the client.
Thank you very much. So the experience of good or safe attachment also, this was what Professor Alfonso mentioned today in his lecture. So what is nice that, okay, maybe the last, because we have limited time.
Thank you. It was partly told before. My answer would be simple. It's attention. Attention to client and attention to our feelings, how we reflect the process. Without attention, the whole process won't be successful at all.
Thank you very much. So one visible expression of love or positive attitude or benevolence of the therapist, that he gives full attention to the patient. Yeah, that I feel as a patient that he really is interested in what I'm saying, and he's not judging and so on and so on. But the attention is a very easy measurement how you can see if someone is really interested in you, and without attention there's no love. And also you add time, so the time you really dedicate to the patient. Yeah. This is also very important. So one thing I have to add, it was already mentioned, I think, yesterday with Tuba and Ali. I heard that 60% of the outcome of a therapy depends not on the therapist, but on the patient. So the patient is the most important factor in the process. Would you agree to this? Yeah. So Professor Alfonso also is agreeing that this is the most important factor. And if we take this into account, that the patient is the one who makes the largest part of the change and the result of the therapy, so we have to put the patient in the focus, in the center of the therapy. So it's his work. His work, or her work, what she's doing, what makes the change, and not our work. We support the work of the patient, and we support his capabilities, as Michael said. So we encourage the patient that he brings his resources into action. Yeah.
Thank you. I just want to echo what you said about shifting the focus of what happens in psychotherapy and when it happens to what happens in between sessions. We have this preconception that therapy is what happens in the 45 minutes or the 30 minutes or the 20 minutes that you spend with the patient, but therapy is what happens in between sessions. This is something that I tell my patients all the time, and they listen to it and they work harder, because otherwise the expectation is going to be magic during the 20 to 45 minutes.
That's something I remember in Bulgaria already in the training. Sometimes I said, don't think about that 1 hour of therapy only. There are 167 hours in 1 week until we have the next session. Use them. And this was what Nosrat Pezeshkian taught us, how to use it. He asked in the end of sessions, what was most important for you today? And the patients named 1, 2, 3 different things. Okay, what can you do? With whom can you talk about it? What can you work out for yourself? This was most important, not what was in the session, but what is after the session. What can the patient himself or herself do? And this is the orientation of positive psychotherapy that we use also in psychodynamic therapy.
I ask for the time. I think we are, yeah, it's shut down. Okay. Okay. Huh? Okay. Thank you much for your attention. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was very important for us to hear the story of the book and from your own perspective.